If you walked into the village of Umoke on any bright morning, you would hear one sound louder than the cry of the palm birds or the chatter of the market women. It was the sound of a hoe striking the earth with steady rhythm. Ta, ta, ta. And if you followed that sound, you would surely find one man bent over his farmland, smiling like someone who was hearing a joke from an invisible friend. That man was Udenze, the great farmer that no one understood. People called him the man blessed by the soil. But even that name was not enough. His strength was the talk of the whole land. He farmed under the hot sun the same way he farmed under the cool morning breeze. He farmed under light rain the same way he farmed when the harmattan wind blew sharp white dust into every corner of the village. No matter the day, no matter the weather, Udenze never looked tired. His shoulders were always straight, his eyes always bright, and his smile always ready. Some people said that his farm tools were lighter in his hands than in the hands of other men. Some said his footsteps walk the earth. Others whispered that he had a secret, something deeper than hard work, something he hid behind his easy laughter. But none of them could prove anything. They only knew one thing for sure. Udenze's farm produced wonders. His cassava stood in long lines like soldiers, thick and tall, with leaves wide enough to cover the heads of 2 children. His yams came out of the soil with the weight of newborn goats. His palm trees were known everywhere. Their fruits were so rich and red that palm oil buyers traveled from neighboring towns just to beg him to sell to them. It was said that even the palm kernels inside the fruits were strong and healthy. People often said that anything that refused to grow in other farms would definitely grow on the Udenze's land. It was like the soil itself obeyed him. What surprised everyone the most was not just the harvest, but the consistency. Year after year, season after season, his farm never failed. While other farms struggled with diseases, poor rainfall, or pests, Udenze's farm flourished like a newborn blessed by the spirits. From the time he owned only one small piece of land to the years when he bought hundreds of lands, the success never stopped. Some people believed it was because he woke very early. Others argued that it was because he never joked with manure and weeding. But the elderly ones shook their heads and said no, something else was going on. The strangest part of it all was the way he behaved on the farm. Many times, people would pass by and see him smiling to himself, shaking his head as if responding to someone. Sometimes he would laugh softly. Other times, he would pause as if listening to a voice nobody else could hear. If you stood there long enough, you would swear he was not alone, even though your eyes would show you only one man. Children in the village made jokes about him. They would say, "Look at Udenze, he's farming with people that we cannot see." Their mothers quickly warned them never to mock him. That man has never offended anybody, and if he is truly blessed by the gods, you must respect that blessing. Adults, however, had their own sayings. They said that when a man walks as if 10 hands are helping him, then perhaps he is not walking alone. But nobody ever saw anything. The mystery only made him more respected. Because of the quality of his harvest, people did something unusual. They would pay for his farm produce even before they reached maturity. That was how much trust they had. A man might still be hoeing his land, and before the crops even formed fully, people had already booked their shares. They would come and say, "Udenze, please reserve 10 tubers of yam for me this season." Or, "I want that cassava in the middle row when it matures. How much?" Some would even bring the money in advance and beg him to accept it. They believed that if it came from his farm, it must be the best, even before they tasted it. And truly, he never disappointed them. His wife, Omalicha, lived a peaceful life. She had no reason to stress herself. Her husband provided everything. She did not need to go to the farm. She did not need to go to the market. All she had to do was stay home, take care of the children, and enjoy the fruits of her husband's hard labor. The villagers loved her gentle nature, and many women envied her. They said that she was blessed to have married a man who loved work the way a child loves sweet fruit. Their children grew strong and healthy. Every time Udenze came home from the farm, he carried one child on his shoulders, another on his back, and allowed the smallest to hold his leg. He laughed loudly each time they all ran towards him. But even though Udenze was a cheerful man, there were days people wondered about him. One such day was when a group of farmers went to help him clear a new land he bought. It was a huge land, wide and thick with bushes. They arrived early, expecting to work the whole day. But when they reached the land, more than half of it was already cleared. They looked around and asked him, "Who helped you clear this place?" But Udenze only smiled, as if the answer was too simple. "I did it," he said. "But how?" one man asked. "This is too much work for one person." "Even I am surprised myself," Udenze replied and shrugged like a man who had no explanation. The other farmers whispered among themselves. Some said he was hiding something. Some said he was just strong. Some said the gods of farming had blessed him. But whatever the truth was, Udenze never gave any extra explanation. The mystery grew even bigger on the market days. Normally, farmers would struggle in the market. Some days they would sell well, but other days they would carry their goods back home because buyers were few or because the price was too low. But Udenze was different. The moment he arrived at the market, even before he arranged his goods properly, people rushed to him like bees rushing to ripe palm fruit. Women called his name from all corners of the market. Children ran to hold his basket. Buyers competed among themselves. The crowd around him would be so thick that other sellers would complain. Is he only the farmer that is selling? But they could not deny that he had the best goods. In less than 1 hour, everything he brought would be sold. Sometimes, even before he reached the market, buyers would meet him on the road and finish his goods before he got there. Other farmers became jealous. Some respected him, some feared him, some secretly tried to copy him, but none of them came close to his level. Soon he became one of the richest men in the town. From one land he bought 2, from 2 he bought 5. In a few years, he owned more than 100 plots spread around the village. Some called him the king of farming. Some called him the blessed man. Others called him the man of mystery. And through it all, Udenze remained the same, calm, cheerful, consistent, always smiling at someone who wasn't there, always working like 10 people at once, always thanking God each time he finished his day's work. To the people of Umuokwe village, his success looked simple but strange. To them, his secret was hidden. To Udenze himself, his secret was secret. Because deep inside him, he knew that he was never alone, and the world was not ready to hear the full story yet. But the whispers kept spreading. People said, "How can a man come from a poor unit and rise like this?" Others said, "Something is happening in that family." Some wondered what turned his father's small family into a blessed household. People even began digging into his family history. And the more they asked questions, the more curious they became. Because somewhere behind Udenze's smile, behind the strength in his arms and the blessings on his land, there was a story buried in the past. A story that began long before he was born. A story of curses, sacrifices, dreams, and a battle between envy and destiny. A story that was about to unfold. The mystery of Udenze's success soon became more than village gossip. It became a matter that elders discussed during evening palm wine circles, as if talking about him would reveal answers hidden in the wind. Women whispered about him while peeling cassava. Young men spoke about him as they sharpened their cutlasses. Even children invented stories about invisible helpers working with him. But the biggest talk came when the elders began asking a question nobody had asked before. What exactly happened in Udenze's family before he was born? It started when a visiting trader from a neighboring town said something strange. The man said he knew Udenze's grandfather and that the man died very poor. Another said he had once seen Udenze's great-grandfather and that the man was even more wretched than his grandfather. Struggling, broken, hopeless. One man even swore that the family once had a curse on it, a curse so strong that no matter how hard any of them worked, poverty followed them like a stubborn shadow. At first, people dismissed the rumors, but then they looked at Udenze's life and wondered, how can someone rise this high when his lineage was once filled with suffering? The curiosity became so strong that one evening, after Udenze had returned from the farm, two elderly men approached him. One said, "My son, forgive us. We have come with a question that has been troubling our minds." The other added, "Your success is too smooth, too constant, too abnormal. We wonder what changed in your family. Did your father ever tell you anything?" Udenze only gave his usual gentle smile. He told them that there was nothing special, that his father only taught him to work hard and trust God. And although he was not lying, he was not ready to reveal truths he himself did not fully understand. But the elders did not believe him. They said no more, but they left with suspicion heavy on their faces. Days passed, then weeks, and the whispers grew louder. People started recalling the way Udenze's father lived. They remembered how the man used to struggle more than anyone else. They remembered how he used to kneel by the village stream late at night, praying and crying. Some even remember that one year he suddenly stopped joining festivals, stopped attending meetings, and started going into the bush alone for days. Now that the village knew he once suffered so deeply, everybody wanted to know what happened that turned a poor struggling man into the father of the richest farmer in Umokwe. The truth began long before Udenze was born, on a night filled with fear, determination, and desperation. At that time, Udenze's father was a young man, thin from hardship and tired from fighting poverty with his bare hands. He had tried everything he could think of. He farmed, he hunted, he tapped palm wine, he wove baskets, he carried blocks for builders, he cleared bush for people, he even worked as a village messenger. Yet, no matter how hard he worked, his money disappeared like smoke. Anytime he planted crops, rain would stop or pests would attack. Anytime he saved money, sickness would come or something would break in the house. People mocked him. They said his family was cursed. Some said his great-grandfather offended a powerful person. Some even said that maybe their ancestors rejected them. But nobody knew anything for sure. One night, when the pain in his heart became too much to carry, Udenze's father decided he could no longer continue living in confusion. He packed a small mat and walked into the forest, straight to the shrine of the greatest deity in their land. The shrine stood deep inside the thick part of the forest, where the trees grew tall and the air carried whispers. The priest of the shrine was an old man, skinny but strong, with eyes that looked like they had seen centuries. When he saw Udenze's father walking in, dusty and trembling, he asked him gently, "My son, why are you here?" The young man knelt down immediately. "I have come to ask the gods why poverty is following my family like a curse. I am tired. I am willing to die here today. I am willing to stay here till I find answers. If my ancestors offended the gods, let them use me as sacrifice so that my future children will be free." The priest was shocked. Nobody had ever chosen to remain in the shrine without food or water. But the priest also knew that when a man comes with a heart full of truth, the gods listened. He allowed him to stay. The first night passed, the second, the third. Each night, he lay on the floor, weak, hungry, and frightened. When he slept, his dreams were full of shadows dragging him, but he refused to go home. He wanted freedom for his family. By the 5th day, he could no longer stand properly. His lips were dry, his stomach was empty, but he kept praying. On the 6th day, his voice became faint. The priest told him to rest, but he refused. On the 7th night, something strange happened. As he slept on the floor, a dream began to form. It was not like the ordinary dreams he had before. It was sharp, clear, as if someone was standing inside his mind showing him a secret. He saw their ancient family compound, the one that had been abandoned for many years. He saw the cracked mud walls, the broken roof, and the lonely entrance. Then he saw a man, bent with jealousy, looking around to make sure no one was watching him. The man dug a small hole at the entrance of the compound. He brought out a small charm wrapped in black cloth. He whispered incantations and said words filled with wickedness. Let suffering never leave this family. Let their strength be useless. Let poverty follow them like shadows. Let joy run far from them. Let whoever comes from this compound end in tears and wretchedness. Then the man covered the charm with sand, looked around again, and walked away quickly. As soon as the dream ended, Udenze's father woke up sweating and crying. He struggled to his feet and rushed down to the shrine. He was confused and shaken. He did not even know what direction to walk. He felt lost. On his way home, he met a strange man sitting under an old tree. The man looked ordinary but carried an air of deep wisdom. He called out to him, "Young man, come." Udenze's father stopped. He did not know the man, but something told him to listen. The man looked him straight in the eyes and said, "The gods have answered your prayer. What you saw in your dream was your truth. A charm was planted at the entrance of your ancient home many years ago. It was planted by a man consumed by envy. That charm has been holding your family down, but now that the gods have revealed it to you, your battle is half won." Udenze's father trembled. He asked, "What should I do? How can I break this curse?" The wise man replied, "Go back to your ancient home. Stand where the charm was buried. Speak to your ancestors. Call them by name. Tell them the truth has been revealed. Tell them to arise and fight. Remove the charm if you can find it. If you cannot, break the ground with prayer. Once you do this, your lineage will breathe again." When the wise man finished speaking, he stood up slowly, took 2 steps, and disappeared into the trees as if he had become part of the forest. Udenze's father called after him, but there was no answer. He ran home with the little strength left in him. He burst into the old compound, panting and crying. He knelt at the entrance where the charm was buried. His tears soaked the soil. He called his ancestors one by one. He reminded them of their struggles. He reminded them of their children. He begged them to arise and fight for their future. He scraped the soil with his bare hands until his nails bled. He cried until his vision blurred. He prayed until his voice broke. That night changed everything. The next morning, a strange peace settled on him. For the first time in his life, he felt light. He stood up, walked home, ate food, drank water, and slept deeply. And from that day, things began to change in his life. His farm began to produce better. His strength increased. Opportunities opened for him. Slowly he rose. Slowly he became stable. Slowly hope returned to his family. But life had one more twist waiting for him. Years later, after Udenze was born, the man fell sick. It was not a strange sickness. It was simply the weakness that follows a man who once wrestled with the supernatural. On his sick bed, he held young Udenze close and whispered something that became the key to everything that followed. He said, "My son, you will never be alone. I will always be with you, and your ancestors will join me. We will walk with you. We will walk with you. We will protect your path. Poverty will never know your name again." That promise was not just words. It became a living truth, because from that day onward, every time Udenze lifted his hoe, unseen hands lifted with him. Every time he bent to weed grass, unseen helpers bent with him. Every time he walked to the market, invisible supporters followed him. People saw only one man, but in the spirit world, he was never alone. And that was the secret no one in the village of Umokwe could ever understand. The truth about Udenze's strange success remained hidden from the people of Umokwe for many years. But destiny has a way of bringing light to places where shadows once lived. As Udenze grew older and his wealth increased, so did the whispers. The more he bought land, the more people talked. The more his farm flourished, the more suspicious the villagers became. Yet no matter how much they guessed, nobody came close to the real story. They said maybe he found a secret place where the soil was richer. They said perhaps he used a charm given by a powerful herbalist. Some even suggested that he made a covenant with the earth goddess. But none of these rumors held any truth. What was happening in Udenze's life was not a covenant with a deity nor a charm hidden in his pocket. It was something deeper. Something older than the village itself, something tied to pain, jealousy, and a sacrifice made long before Udenze knew how to hold a hoe. The real beginning of the cause came from a man named Obiakpo, a man whose heart was eaten by bitterness. Many years ago, when Udenze's great-grandfather was alive, he was a respected man. He had many healthy children, boys and girls. They were strong, hardworking, and full of life. In those days, having many children was a sign of blessing and strength. The family compound was always filled with laughter, the sound of pounding mortars, the smell of roasting yam, and the echo of stories told by moonlight. But not everyone rejoiced with them. Obiakpo, a man who lived 2 compounds away, had only one son. The boy was born weak and deformed. His legs could not carry him. His hands were shaky. His voice came out like whispers. Obiakpo loved his son deeply, but the pain in his heart grew like a wound that refused to heal. Instead of finding peace in caring for his child, he began comparing his family to Udenze's great-grandfather's family. While that family had many children who ran around the compound freely, played games, fetched water, and helped in the farm, his only child sat in one place, unable to join other children. Slowly, jealousy grew in his heart like weeds growing over fine crops. Each morning, he watched the healthy children of his neighbor and felt bitterness rising inside him. In his eyes, it looked unfair. How could one man have so many blessed children while he had only one, and that one was deformed? Jealousy can turn a man's heart into a dangerous weapon if he allows it. And that was exactly what happened to Obiakpo. One night, when everyone in the village slept, and only the moon kept watch, Obiakpo left his house quietly. He carried a small pot wrapped in a red cloth, a strange white powder, and a charm tied with back rope. He walked silently to the ancient home of Udenze's great-grandfather. The compound was dark and empty at that time because the children had grown and moved to their own compounds. Only dust and silence remained. He stood at the entrance of the ancient compound and knelt down. His hands shook as he dug a small hole into the earth. He brought out the charm and whispered words that came from jealousy and a heart corrupted by bitterness. Let this family never rise. Let their joy dry up. Let their strength become weakness. Let their sweat produce nothing. Let their lineage suffer in ways that my own son has suffered. Let whoever comes from this compound die poor, confused, and broken. When he finished, he buried the charm and covered it with soil. He looked around to ensure no one saw him. Then he ran back home, breathing heavily, believing he had protected his pride by destroying another's blessing. From that night, the curse began. Udenze's great-grandfather's life changed. His harvest failed. His children struggled. His grandchildren suffered. Poverty began to follow the lineage like a shadow that refused to detach itself. Each generation tried to break free, but the curse held them like a chain. By the time it reached Udenze's father, the suffering had become unbearable. No matter how hard he worked, he earned nothing. No matter how early he woke, the day yielded nothing. No matter how much strength he used, the result was always disappointment. Until the day he ran into the forest and cried to the gods for help. Until the night he stayed 7 days without food or water. Until the dream came. until the wise man appeared, until he fell on the ground of the ancient home and called his ancestors to rise. That night became the turning point. But breaking a curse always takes something from the one who breaks it. Udenze's father regained his success and strength, but his life slowly began to shorten. When he became sick, he knew that the price he was paying was part of the sacrifice he made for his family. He called his son to his side. He held little Udenze's hand gently. His voice was weak, but his eyes were strong. "My son, listen to me. I cannot stay long in this world, but I will never leave you. When I cross to the land of our ancestors, I will join them. We will watch over you. We will walk with you. You will never carry your load alone. You will never be poor. You will never struggle the way I struggled." He raised his hand slightly and called on his ancestors. "My fathers, my mothers, hear me. Help this boy. Help his brothers. Help every child that will come from my blood. Protect them. Guide them. Walk with them." When he finished, he placed his hand on Udenze's head, prayed one more time, smiled, and then closed his eyes forever. Everything changed from that moment. When Udenze grew older and started farming, his results shocked everyone. His hoe felt lighter. His strength doubled. His farm produced wonders. Sometimes when he bent down to dig, he felt like someone else bent beside him. Sometimes when he weeded grass, he sensed a presence helping. When he harvested his crops, he felt a support behind him. He was never afraid because he knew what it was. His father's promise had come to life. His ancestors walked with him. People saw him smiling alone on the farm, but they did not know he was smiling at the presence of his father standing near him. They heard him laugh at times, not knowing someone unseen whispered funny things to him. They saw him walking alone to the market, but in the spirit, the old ones of his lineage followed him like a protective army. That was why even the market responded to him. That was why people rushed to buy his goods before he reached his stand. That was why everything he touched prospered. He was not alone. The curse had been broken, and the blessing had overpowered the past. Years rolled by, and Udenze became one of the greatest farmers the town had ever known. From only one farmland, he grew to hundreds. His palm trees became landmarks. People came from other villages to learn from him. Some even asked him to teach their children. But he never bragged. He never shouted. He never acted like someone greater than others. He simply smiled and kept walking, knowing that somewhere behind him, unseen hands were always pushing him forward. His family lived in comfort. His wife never lacked anything. His children studied abroad. He built houses. He gave to the poor. He trained young boys in farming. He supported widows. He became a symbol of goodness and generosity, a sign of hope in the village. One day, when he sat outside his compound under the mango tree, watching his children play, he felt a gentle breeze. It was warm and familiar. And though no one else could see it, he felt a presence sit beside him. He smiled softly. "Father, you are here again," he whispered. The wind blew lightly, touching his face. In that moment, Udenze felt grateful. His success was not only from hard work, though he worked harder than most men. It was not magic, though it looked magical. It was not luck, though blessings followed him everywhere. It was a gift paid for with tears, sacrifice, and the love of a father who refused to let his lineage die in shame. And from that day, whenever he stepped into his farm, people continued to marvel at the strange sight of a man who laughed alone, worked tirelessly, and produced miracles from the soil. But the truth remained hidden. Only Udenze and the spirits that walked with him understood the real story. The story of the curse that failed. The story of a father's sacrifice.
The story of a man who was never truly alone, and the story of a lineage that rose from the ashes and flourished like a tree of life. The end.